You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and in this episode, again solo, continuing from last week, I wanted to cover some more of the various new reboot / film things coming out. And I think I'll talk about, kind of starting off with something a little strange. Liam Neeson is in talks to join a new Men in Black film with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, kind of playing the role that, or in the UK branch of the agency, kind of like where Rip Torn was in the original films. I think this could be really cool, having kind of taken, meets, some of these other aspects kind of in Men in Black. I was a fan of the original ones with him, but it'll be interesting to see what role they place him in and how they do this. I'm not a huge fan on a lot of that kind of weird Dark Horse Comics styled alien weird stuff that they had in it, but I liked the aspects with the humans in it, and I think they did that fairly well. So it'll be fun to see that. Some other interesting things. There's going to be a Boba Fett movie finally. Director James Mangold is directing Lucasfilm's Boba Fett film. The Logan director, which I think is kind of good because you get this guy that'll actually be able to flesh out the character when he's older, type of thing. And it kind of leads you to wonder whether it's going to be Boba Fett pre-Sarlacc or post-Sarlacc, which makes me wonder a little bit. I'm kind of a fan of knowing whether he's going to be post Sarlacc. So could be interesting. But anyways, they're doing the character development for this right now, and I'm going to say spoiler alert for this next part. If you don't want to hear this after I finish speaking this, fast forward 30 seconds. So we have in Solo a spoiler in essence that the main villain is Darth Maul, that he survived in the film, and obviously he's back in Star Wars Rebels and dies in Rebels, so if you already watched that series you already know, but it's in there either way. So we're kind of in this age of villains and heroes and everybody getting their own solo film or getting a aspect in all the fandoms that they're finally fleshing out everybody that's not in the prime first tier level of characters. And so I guess that's kind of where we're at in today's world with films. So, yeah, I mentioned that. Ryan Reynolds did the funniest thing, and it's kind of because of the end of Deadpool 2. They had a end credit scene where Deadpool goes back in time and shoots Reynolds in the head after he read the Lantern script, thus setting the world right. As Blanchard would love that. So anyways, they poked fun at it in the first movie with asking for a super suit to not be green or animated, and the second film, that's how they did it. So WB seems to have a sense of humor about the failure of Lantern, and Reynolds mocking of it. They aimed for the stars with the movie, but crashed and burned before getting 20 feet off the ground. It's funny because they sent a picture with a character, one of the Green Lanterns, asking politely for Reynolds to return the ring. It says, sorry, we're going to need the ring back. And then Reynolds puts, well, if we'd used a Nuva ring in the first place, we wouldn't be in this mess. It's just kind of funny seeing the sense of humor. It's another one of those things, kind of like a few months back when they were coming out with Ready Player One, and we had that Carl's Jr. with their sandwich trying to make a Spielberger and trying to get Spielberg, and they actually like went up to his office trying to get him to sign off on the name, and went to the premiere and tried to do all this other stuff. So anyways, he ate the burgers and said they were good, but he said, no way can you use my name for their promotion. It was kind of tacky, but it was kind of interesting how they did that in the first place. But so it's another one of those things that's very much on that same line. And Warner Brothers made a joke to him after saying, we tried to put a ring on it, and they showed him holding the Green Lantern thing. Yeah. So anyways, it's kind of funny. Moving on to something a little bit in a different world, different span, we have Battlefield 5 news. I am stoked. They start off with a first look of a woman character, which has thrown some fans for a loop. I honestly don't really care, because you spend the majority of time in first-person view anyway. I just don't see why people have a wild conniption. I'm sure there were women that fought in World War II. I mean, for crying out loud, they did convert a lot of the factories here back home in the U.S. into factories, and the women worked at them because all the men were at war. I'm not saying there weren't women in the war, but they were very much still involved, regardless of capacity. So people are just having a hairy about it. So anyways, it's going back to DICE and EA are going back to the world of World War II, telling real stories about men and women who changed history over the course of the Second World War. It's going to be out October 19th for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So very much like Battlefield 1, it'll have a single-player campaign that'll unfold through an anthology of war stories, each telling a different tale from World War II. Co-opting is returning to the first-person shooter series, because they kind of did away with that. Which I think is kind of cool, because then you could play multiplayer with people. Like, I could play with my brother through the storyline. So that would be nice. So it's returning to the series along with a new multiplayer mode called Grand Operations. They will not, and I love this precedent that they're setting with this game. I wonder how they're going to recap the money, but they're going to not have any sort of premium pass or season pass in Battlefield 5. No paying for maps or modes, nor will you have to buy anything that affects gameplay. Earlier this year, DICE is being very, very cautious after the outrage of last year's Battlefront, where they did a lot of this. And I can understand why. They actually had these elements where they kind of screwed the pooch too much on the loot boxes, and a lot of companies are going overboard on this. I honestly am not one of those people that wants to continuously pay for a game or for features in a game. I would rather just, I'm sure the game's going to cost more when it comes out, which most people will probably swallow and accept to some degree. Like, I could see people paying as much as like upwards to like $79. Some people will probably spend more, but I'm not one of those guys that gets into the games at like top tier pricing. I'll get into it later if I have to pay for it. And so like that's why, like, when I had Battlefield 4, my family bought the premium pass, and it came with the entire game and everything else for like $50 when it was old. It was kind of old hat. They were getting ready for Battlefield 1. And then when I started playing Battlefield 1 after doing the alpha, the beta, and then the pre-release on Origin Access, or EA Access, Origins, or whatever, my family bought the game. I bought the expansion, which was still $50 either direction. So it's $100 total, which is a bit ridiculous for a game. So anyways, EA confirmed that the game will not have any form of randomized loot boxes. Previously, report had suggested that the next Battlefield would have cosmetic-only loot boxes. And now they've kind of confirmed there will be no loot boxes. So, gonna put a trailer for that in the episode post. But it says it'll show off multiplayer on June 9th. You get to follow around for with a female soldier who's got like kind of a set of tongs for a hand type setup in the game. It's yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to this game and seeing what they do with it. Seeing the historical aspects that they add into the game from real life and with the people involved. They're going to have, like I said, the simultaneous thing, and they're opting to get rid of the premium pass because it means that the entire community will be going on the same journey across the same content at the same time, giving EA and DICE another layer of control over the player experience because then everyone's doing the same thing at the same time instead of trying to figure out, oh, did you have premium pass? Oh, did you have the plus? Or did you get this expansion? Did you have this? No, everybody will be getting the same rollouts at the same time. So you won't have to worry about if somebody has an expansion or not being able to play with friends online, which was kind of the problem that stopped me and various other people in my family from playing the game together. It'll have a real world. It'll have a premium real world real money currency. But those will be the things that you will buy cosmetic items for in the game. So, like, if you want to... so, basically, it's like grind currency, the game's going to have grind currency in it, too, but, like, this is going to be purely for cosmetics of, like, how your character looks, what they wear, the tanks, the arsenal. Like, it's going to be purely cosmetic that you have to spend your own money to get. I can't see a lot of people doing that, but I can see some people doing that. They intend to remove any concerns among fans that Battlefield 5 would be a pay-to-win, which is what Battlefield 1 kind of was. That was kind of my only gripe, is when we were in the alpha and the beta, everyone was on the same playing field. The minute the game came out, we were just... It was pure hell because people had... elements that they were just unable to compete with what people could afford. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that, and seeing how they go about all of this as the game comes out. So, moving into Techland, since we still have time in this episode, Firefox 60 is out. And the first browser to give you password-free logins. It supports the web authentication API, taking the no password login approach, which I'm not entirely sure. It's coming later this month to Chrome 67 and Edge, and consideration for Safari. But they're hoping to remove passwords. The web authn API will make phishing attacks a lot harder and give users more convenient authentication choices, including hardware security key dongles such as a YubiKey device, fingerprint readers on smartphones, or facial recognition systems like the iPhone X Face ID. The key advantage is that when it generates cryptographic public-private pairs for signing in, which means no shared secrets that could be leaked if a site is hacked, which is nice. And honestly, I would much rather punch in a dang code and do a web API than have to sit there and remember 50,000 passwords among all of my sites. It's nuts. So anyways, that they're hoping that beyond signing into websites, that another WSC3 standard would kind of create a payment request API that one day it would be possible to authorize online purchases from a mobile browser using a fingerprint, which could be good, could be bad, hard to say. Somebody cut your thumb off. I mean, that's instant payment. So stealing wallets will steal thumbs. So I know, I'm sorry, morbid thought. So when plugged into a USB port, the feature would enable biometric login from mobile devices following a notification issued by websites. So as long as it supports WebAuthn, which it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for everyone to get on board with this, or if it actually happens. But it's kind of an interesting twist in privacy and password protection in today's world. And I mentioned a few weeks back that I was looking at getting a new cell phone. It's still in process, but it's going to take a lot longer, it seems, because I don't have any money to buy a cell phone because they cost $1,000. So I was looking at ZTE and Asus as possibilities because they're cheaper and I could get a lot of the same features. I'm not sure how they work because I haven't had to use them, but ZTE had ceased operations in the U.S., or actually altogether, after a U.S. ban because it had to do with something with the Chinese tech and U.S. legislation barring the sale of national security sensitive technology to China in an effort to crack down on the theft of U.S. intellectual property. So this Fair Trade with China Enforcement Act would block government or contractors from buying telecommunications equipment and services from Chinese tech giant ZTE and Huawei. So anyways, yeah, it's... I think they're trying to distance themselves from the fact that China is trying to catch up to the U.S. companies in Germany across like robotics, aerospace, and clean energy cars. So they're essentially like hacking them at the knees with it. But they're saying that how America responds to the growing threats posed by China is the single most important geopolitical issue of our time, and it will define the 21st century, which is Marco Rubio, the guy that introduced the bill. I'm kind of on both sides of this. Like, I get it for the national security thing, but like buying and selling products is kind of damaging to both sides. So I just don't know how this is going to work out. So anyways, they're even the UK though has had security risks of using CTE equipment. So, and Australia ends the sale of CTE. So essentially, like, everybody's taken down China's ZTE company. So it's kind of a domino fall effect. Yeah. So, because politics jump in, everyone suffers. So they're also saying that, you know, because of this, it kind of puts that into wondering of how many more are coming down the road. So yeah, we'll see. It has to do with the chips too, like the chipsets that are used in semiconductors and everything else. So since I'm on this whole internet kick right now, I thought something that was kind of interesting to talk about was social media that has died or gone the way of the cloud that it sits on. So we have a few different services, and unfortunately we've lost some social media companies. I didn't use either one of them though. Clout went away this month. Social media measuring power tool essentially just went. So I'm kind of confused on why this was such a thing. Like, it was supposed to kind of measure your clout score, you know, and you know, in 2011, 2012, everybody was obsessed with it. It was weird because it says if it was low, you felt blue and you tried hard to get your score back up, which I don't know why anybody cares. Like, it's a social media platform. So anyways, it just lured people. Another reason, you know, that it mattered or didn't matter for people to have high clout scores, you know. And it just wasn't an important thing for people. I don't even know why people followed it as much as they did. To be honest, like, I don't even care that it's gone. Like, I didn't even know it was still around. I signed up for one when it came out, but that was because everybody's like, you gotta have one of every social media platform. And then Stumble Upon also is dead. Because evidently nobody was clicking the button. So June 30th, that's going to be gone. It's supposed to like help you discover new websites, and it's shutting down. And I guess their founder Garrett Camp is kind of moving into another platform called Mix, which is kind of like StumbleUpon and Pinterest. They're saying like it's like if the two had a baby, that's what you get. So this is only fewer people click on that baby than on its parents, which means they're killing the parent company so that the baby can absorb all the power and become a popular one, I guess. I don't even have a clue what... Like, Mix is supposed to be like, all your favorite things all in one place. Curate and share the best of the internet. Mix learns what you learn to love to show you even more. So it's supposed to just help you discover things. Like, isn't that what Twitter does? Like, in a sense? Like, I don't... You know, and it's like all these other kind of throwaway companies that have their junk ads on the bottom of the websites that you visit. Like, I don't really need to discover a site that shows me things I like because I pretty much already follow it at this point in time. Like, it's where you can easily Google it or have a trends thing that you follow. Like, I just started using this thing called Feedly.com, which I plan to... It basically curates news in different categories that you select, and you add different websites that are on it to this, and it helps you build out a topic thing of things you're interested in. And so I started doing that. It's basically a glorified RSS reader all in one place. But I started doing that because I've kind of gotten to this point where I'm interested in finding out things, but I don't necessarily want to have to search for it. Or even things that could be talked about on the podcast as possible topics, and I don't want to have to search them out. So it will give me things that are timely, relevant, and things that I would want to talk about all at the same time. And so I think that that's more the way to go than this route, because it's essentially like tagging and keywording that you're setting up things. So I don't know. It's something different. And YouTube Music is coming soon. So they're going to have... they've got like signups to get a sneak peek at the service. It's essentially going to take like your music stuff that you already kind of watch on YouTube and put them in your ears so you can listen to it. It's going to be like a new, like essentially like a Spotify or Pandora or something like that. And I have a feeling that because Google Play Music was just too wordy and too mouthy to say, because like especially when you say Google Play Music Podcasts, I have a feeling that that's going to go away too. So when the URL changes, I have a feeling everybody's going to lose it. And then you're going to have to start over from scratch. And every one of your subscribers for Google Play is going to be irrelevant, I have a feeling. Because they're going to roll that into YouTube Music as well. It's just a matter of whether they redirect the URL and it's the same RSS feed for that or not. Like, I'm not really sure. It's a good thing that hardly anybody listens to any of the content there, even on popular network national shows or podcasts, because it would really have a hurt there. But since it's not a leading player in the game, and Google seems to have this knack for anything that's created by Google that wasn't YouTube, really doesn't catch on for the most part unless it's Android or something they bought up. They had their blogging thing, Google profile thing that never took off, and now like they have this element, so it's hard to say what happens, but I'm interested in seeing what they do with it. Interesting to see how they play this out. And then the final thing is this is like a giant security thing in the US, and maybe I'll save that for the next episode. It just kind of it has to do with GDPR and it becoming compliant and like the massive deadline because it was last week. So it's like this giant thing from the European Union for general data protection regulations. So we'll talk about that on the next episode. So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.